Hey darts fans, as Timo Newman here, the transporter, welcome to the Good Ship Undarted Waters, and we have got an amazing voyage here. We are going to the edge of the world on our ship. No, the edge of the dartboard. Was that just a checkout for 80? No, that was a regular everyday shot if you follow a system that I'm going to propose that might suit many dart players. Not the elites, no way, but for many dart players, even if they're very good, might want to think about this system. It's all going to be about using the top of the 20 segment for your power scoring. Okay, now we did touch on this channel. I'll just turn this light off here. We did touch on this a few times when we spoke about the geometry of the dartboard, because I was pointing out what a big percentage of the segment the double actually is. It's 12%. So when we are shooting, say in 501 at the 20 segment and ignoring the double and focusing all our energy on the treble, and of course if we are amateur players we're getting many singles, we are basically ignoring 12% of that segment, which is rich scoring material. Okay, so we had a hunch when we were looking at that maybe we needed to take the double a bit more seriously. Maybe it's not just something you use for checking out. Maybe you can use it as part of your scoring strategy. So what I've been doing is some calculations, and I'm very excited indeed, because you can show mathematically that for many players they will actually do significantly better if they use tops as part of their scoring. Essentially that they use tops for their scoring strategy and they basically ignore the treble unless they fall into a slightly different category during their play, and I'll explain what I mean by that as we go on. And I'm not just talking about a very narrow class of player here. I'm talking about a broad class of player, from really, let's say, beginning club players to advanced club players, maybe even Super League players actually would really benefit from considering this. So we can argue the toss, excuse the expression, about this, but the nice thing is we can actually treat it as a science problem. I make a hypothesis to you, okay, I'm the crazy physics person who plays a bit of darts. I'm saying, oh, I think for many players tops is much better than treble 20 for scoring. Person says that's rubbish. We can argue about it, but let's actually do some science, and we can use some very simple, extremely simple fractions and arithmetic and prove that for many players it's far superior. And that's my aim in this first video today, is to show you these simple arguments. So let me get my whiteboard. And I hope it's a bit dark today. It's 1st of September and autumn has made a bit of an early visit here. So it's quite dark, gloomy days, but hopefully it's bright enough that you can see the board here. So my aim today is really just to do the very simplest possible calculations about this. And this is really a physics approach. In physics, if you have an idea and you want to test it as a theoretical physicist like I am, you want to start simple. That's the whole beauty of physics, is simplicity. Okay, and if you can have a simple but powerful representation of reality which gives you some real confidence that your idea is correct, then you can step by step add in more realistic features as you go along. But you don't want to throw all those in at the beginning, because you can't work out anything and it just ends up being a mess. So we're going to start really simple, and in this first video I'm going to, I think, convince you that there's really something to this, but you'll have some questions. You'll say, what about this? What about that? And they're all good questions, and we can address those in future videos according to interest, okay? But I think even in today's video you'll get what I'm saying, and you'll start to say, I think Timo's onto something here. So let me split this board into two halves. I want to think about the treble 20 on this half of the board, and on this half of the board I want to think about I'm going to call it double 20. I know we normally call it tops, but I just want to contrast that with the word treble, all right? And to warm us up into these funny little calculations I'm going to show you, they're really simple to do, but they might take a little moment or two for you to get your head around what I'm doing. Let me start with the very simplest possible version of this. I want to just draw a rectangle that is the treble 20, okay? And this is going to be my yardstick. This rectangle is kind of my yardstick. And I'm going to say it's 1 unit high, and it's also a different unit, but a different unit of width, which I'm going to call 1. So my unit of height is the height of a treble 20, and my unit of width is the width of a treble 20, okay? And you might say that's really weird, but it turns out to be really convenient that we can do these calculations really straightforwardly. And as we know, of course, the value of this for scoring is 60. And now you'll start to see what I'm getting at. I want to superimpose that shape onto a double 20, okay? So here's my double 20. It's got the same height. But as we know from the geometry of the dartboard, the double has got 5/3 the area of the treble. Now, I'm approximating these curved regions here by rectangles for the purposes of this simplicity, and we can add the curvature in later. It's not going to make much difference, to be honest, but we can do that. But I want to start really simple because we all know how to calculate the area of a rectangle. It's just the height times the width, right? So here's my double, and what I know is that the height of this double is 1, and the width of it in these units is 5/3, because we know that the area of the double is 5/3 the area of the treble. If they both have the same height, then the width of the double is 5/3 the width of the treble. And if I superimpose this shape onto the double, it's going to look like that. And you can see I've got these pieces hanging off each end, okay? So 1/3 of a unit is hanging off to the left, and 1/3 of a unit is hanging off to the right. And the score that I get for hitting the double, of course, is 40 points. So this is going to be like a really stupid question. I apologize. I'm not insulting your intelligence. It's just to warm us up here. So if you programmed a robot to throw darts in this area, it was very, very accurate, and you could throw darts always within an area of the shape of a treble, and you said to the robot, will you be scoring more if you center that rectangle on the treble or center it on the double? The robot will say, well, if I center it on the treble, it's exactly the same shape, and I'll always get 60 points per dart. If I center it on the double, in the middle of the double, I'm only going to get 40 points per dart. So for scoring, I want to be aiming at the treble, absolutely. So the super accurate robot that gets 180 on every visit is going to aim at the treble. And one message, by the way, from all this is that if you're an elite player or a player that regularly averages in the probably like low 90s above, this is not for you. You need to keep doing what you're doing. You're doing brilliant. We'd all love to do what you do. This is not for you. But if you're a club player, or maybe a player who's averaging quite high, maybe even in the 80s, this might be for you. Okay. And when I say average, I mean like on the power scoring side, not including all of the checkout and stuff. So that's just a warm up. But just for fun now, let's do the opposite. Let's start with the double shape and superimpose that on the treble. So I'm now going to program the robot to throw in this rectangle, which is the double. And remember, it's got a height of 1. And in the yardstick that we're using, where in the horizontal direction 1 unit is the width of a treble, the double has a width of 5/3. And this shape now is the shape we're going to superimpose that on the treble. And wow, goodness me, I must try to improve the stability of my setup here. I will be working on that. That was a close shave, but we're still going, we're still fine. Right, so what's the scoring pieces of this? This is the whole double now. That whole region is 40, but we're superimposing this on the treble. Well, the treble gives us 60, but we just get 15 to the left because we're just intruding in on the treble 5, and we just get 3 on the right. That's our 1 unit, and then we have a third on either side. Okay? So now we can ask the robot, well, this is your sort of accuracy window, is this shape. Would you rather aim at the center on the treble 20 or the double 20? And the robot will say, well, actually, it's very close, but I'd rather aim for the double 20. Really? Well, let's check. All we have to do is multiply the area of the rectangle by the different scoring parts of it. In science speak, you'd say that this shape has got a weight, different weights in different parts of the shape, and we can just add up each little piece of the shape with its weight and just add them all up and compare them. So this is really easy. Look, the area is just 5/3, and the weight, namely the score, is 40. Okay, on this side, well, I've got 60 times 1, and then on the left I've got 15 times 1/3, and I've got 3 times 1/3. So this equals 66. But this one here is 200 divided by 3, which is 66.7. So this is already giving us a hint of what's going on. Okay, this is giving us a hint of what's going on, is that if you were to just broaden that region that we talked about right at the beginning to make it a little bit wider, so that it's actually the size of a double, and then that's your sort of robot's scoring kind of window, the robot is actually going to ignore the treble. It's just going to go for the double because it gets a little bit more every time. Why does it get a little bit more? Well, of course the reason's obvious, is because it doesn't like wasting darts in the 5s and the 1s. And of course this is why the treble is an awkward target, is because unless you're really accurate player, this is basically 3 centimeters wide here, roughly speaking, and if you can't be very accurate there, you're throwing darts away. Whenever you hit a 1 or a 5, essentially for scoring purposes, you're throwing those darts away. Whereas this double is 5/3 bigger, so it's roughly 5 centimeters wide. It's going to soak up your darts. So if your accuracy in the line direction is plus or minus, half of the width of a double, you can very reliably get your darts in this region, and you're going to be mopping up points. And what we've shown here is, if you don't have any vertical error at all, you're better off going for doubles than trebles in that case. Okay, but these are unrealistic examples we've done so far, but I'm just trying to warm us up. So let's get a bit more realistic now, and let's put in some vertical error, or we can call it dispersion, some vertical dispersion. Okay, so let me take these away. So let's see. Let me start with the treble, and I'm going to draw a shape like this now. So I'm saying now that our places, we'll put the robot back in the cupboard, and we'll have real humans now playing. And I've got a person playing now who's got a vertical error of basically a centimeter up here and a centimeter down here. So in our units, 1, 1 and 1, and we're still going to use this 5/3 here. So they're not able to keep all of their darts within the width of a treble. Okay. And let's put in what all of these different scores are, or the weights are here, right? So this is treble 20. Above it is a single 20, below it is a single 20, and then you've got 5, 15, 5, and you've got 1, 3, 1. And let's just quickly, what we can do is just add everything up. So we just take each little area, we weight it with the score, we just add them all up. And it looks a mess, but it's actually really easy because of the units that we've chosen. So remember, this is 1 across here. So I've just got 20 plus 60 plus 20. And then on the left here, I've got 5, 20, 25. And that's just times a third. And on the right, I've got 5, 1 plus 3 plus 1 times a third. But what you'll see is really nice is that 25 plus 5 is 30. So really, if I just add up all of these bits at the side, it's 6 plus 18 is 30, and then times a third is just 10. So this is actually really easy. It's just 100 plus 10 is 110. So that's the total you get from that shape. Right, so let's do the same shape and let's center it on the double 20. And these are much easier calculations because we have none of the stuff at the sides, okay? So this is 0 at the top. That's, I've missed the board. This is our double, and this is our single 20. And remember, the width here is 5/3. So I've got 40 plus 20, and it's all multiplied by the width, 5/3. All right, and that's 60 divided by 3 is 20 times 5 is 100. Aha! So you would say, or the person that we've brought in to try this would say, well, look, of course, our intuition is absolutely right. The treble's better than the double, because if I have this error in the horizontal direction and I have an error in the vertical direction of this is quite an accurate player, by the way. All right, then I get 110 points if I aim at the treble. Well, no, sorry, I don't get 110 points. I get, this shape has a weight of 110. We'll get to the average number of points in a second. But this shape only has a weight of 100, so the treble is superior to the double. If you're asking about, well, what is actually the average score, we have to divide this number by the total area. And we've got 5/3 times 3, so the total area is 5. So we divide this by 5, and that gives you the score per dart, okay? So 110 divided by 5 is 22. So you're getting 22 per dart. This would give you, this is a player who's getting 66 per visit. Okay? If they have that kind of dispersal in the horizontal and vertical directions, that's quite good. It's 66 per visit that they're generally getting, all right? And they are doing better than if they had that error and they were aiming at the double 20. But here's really the point now I want to get to. Let's look at what we were doing over here. We've centered this on the double 20. But why are we doing that when 1/3 of our darts are just flying over? Why don't we center it a bit lower, and that way we won't have so many darts flying over the top. So I'm actually going to center this shape not on the double. I'm actually going to center this shape on the single with the double right above. So I'm basically aiming 1 centimeter below the double 20. And how does that change this calculation? Well, now it's 40 plus 20 plus 20. So it's not 60 times 5/3, it's now 80 times 5/3. And that is 400 divided by 3, which is 133.3. And this is a moment I think we can say, wow, wow. If I center, that same player now is actually aiming their darts a centimeter below the double with that same error range that they had. They're massively doing better, massively doing better. And we have to divide this by 5 to get the area, and then we can times 3 to get the per visit. And I do have it worked out here actually somewhere. The average score per visit is actually 80. So that is incredible. So if you have a player who's quite good, who's getting 66 per scoring visit on average, because this is their typical kind of dispersion of their darts, okay? If they were to aim just below the double, they're massively increasing their average score. They're going from a 66 scoring average to 80 with that one alteration. And this is the end of really the calculations for today. This is like we call it a toy model in physics. You do something really simple to test your idea, and if you get an amazing answer back, then you know you're onto something, and you can start putting more reality in, but you know you're onto something. So just briefly then, what are the objections to what I've done? Well, I think probably there is a big objection is that I've got rectangles instead of curves, and I've got straight lines instead of slanting lines. So obviously the dartboard doesn't look like this. This is all like this, okay? And the same here, that there are slanting lines here. So I'm missing stuff here. And that's a serious objection, and we can look at that another time. I can tell you up front that it's not going to make a huge amount of difference actually, okay? Another objection is, well, the player's sometimes going to lob over the top, and that's absolutely true. We can look at that. All of these things will make a slight difference, but they're not going to change the basic idea, because this is such a big improvement that when you add in the slanting lines and when you add in some darts going over the top, it's a few percent, but it's not going to change the bottom line. So really, what you can see from this, hopefully this has been kind of engaging and interesting, that everyone can follow along with the little bits of maths that we're doing. You can see with your own eyes, and you can repeat this on a piece of paper at home and convince yourself that actually you can prove mathematically that for players that have certain accuracy patterns, aiming just below the double 20 is fantastic, okay? And that was what I did to start the video today. Did I score a ton, I think, but it wasn't an outshot. It was just, this could be a regular scoring visit if you aim just below tops, okay? So I think this is very exciting. This is not going to be relevant to elite players who can tuck their darts in a much narrower configuration, because treble obviously is for them. It's also not going to apply to players who have very, very accurate line and have poor range, because they won't be drifting into those side segments. But for most players, that drifting into the 1s and 5s is an issue, and for those players this is a major consideration, I think. So I'm going to stop there. I've probably already gone on way too long, but I really wanted you to see how you can just use very simple ideas to get some mathematical foundation for what might appear to be a crazy suggestion, and show, bloody hell, there's something to this. Tops is not just for outshots, it can be for power scoring. So we get 3 darts at the Ockies, let's aim them high, and I'll see you next time. If you give me comments about this series, because I have no idea where to take it, we can do more calculations as you like to see, really does it hold water, but I think it does. All the best.